All right, day 10 of Google Classroom. So this is the last day that we're going to be doing for a while. Let me get this chair out of my way because I'm going to be standing up the remainder of our time. Because next week would have been what would have been our spring break. So we will not have any stay-at-home learning days next week. That's so we want to make sure that we get everything turned in by tomorrow. I need all of our questions, which have already been turned in, as well as your test has to be in Google Classroom by Saturday, no later than midnight. That's the time frame, the stop frame that I'm going to put on it. So, you know, for you, you're watching this in real time. Today is your Friday. So you have until tomorrow at midnight to get it uploaded. After that, I cannot tell you that I will be taking it. I've got to be able to keep lessons separate, got to be able to have everything in my brain kind of categorize, okay, this is done, this is done, this is done. So I think that tomorrow by midnight is an adequate amount of time to have that done. Well, I know it is. So be looking for me to upload that, okay? Now, so we want to look at our questions. Number 1 says, explain why the ceremony of 9 is one of the most favored ceremonies. On page 58, it talks about that's when the kids get their bikes. So you could say that the ceremony of 9 is the most favored ceremony. That's because that's when the kids get their bicycles. That's when they're getting their real independence of being able to maneuver throughout their community. So when I flip over to 58, it actually says, let's see, it says that their bicycles were wheeled in, their new bicycles, each with its gleaming name tag attached. And so it's the most favorite because that's when those bicycles are gotten. It's mentioned bicycles numerous times through this cycle 1 reading. So that should have been an easy one for you all to answer. Number 2 says, are people in the community trapped there? And then it says, support your answer. That's going to take us to page 61. And on page 61, Asher and Jonas are having a conversation during the lunch break. And so we would say that people in the community are not trapped there. We know this because on page 61, it says so in the rules. Okay, if you don't fit in, you can apply for elsewhere and be released. So they're not trapped there. In their rule book or handbook that they have, there is a way for them to leave the community where they live. And that is what Asher is referring to. So that's how we know that they do not have to stay there if they don't want to be there. So then there was also a story that Asher talked about that his dad had told him how someone didn't like their assignment and they jumped and swam across the river, you know, but Jonas is like, well, that's just hearsay. Do you really know someone? So the evidence that takes us back to the rule book is really what we're looking for, okay? Number 3, how are people's assignments chosen? That goes to page 66. So we're always looking for that textual evidence. Okay, guys? And we've done this all last year, and we have continued to do this all this year. You've got to have the textual evidence. You just can't say page 66, paragraph 3. You've got to be able to pull it from there to tell me. So people's assignments are chosen by a committee. And on page 66, it says, finally, the chief elder paid tribute to the hard work of her committee, which had performed the observations so meticulously all year. And so it's the committee's job to watch these kids at school, to watch these kids in their free time, to try to determine what would be the best work or vocation for them as an adults. So that's how that's chosen. Number 4, which of the following conclusions can you draw after reading this part of the story? That would be that love and romance are not really important. Evidence from the story that supports that is that people in the community are not allowed to choose their own husbands and spouses. And we know that because Jonas talks about how you have to apply for a spouse, and how his mom and dad were matched based on personal attributes or characteristics of them. He talked about how his mother was more intelligent than his dad, but his dad was more, I want to say, even-tempered. Let's see if we can find that. It's on page 61 and up into 62. So we know that love in a marriage is not important because it says, even the matching of spouses was given such weighty consideration that sometimes an adult who applied to receive a spouse waited months or even years before a match was approved and announced. All of the factors, disposition, energy level, intelligence, interest, had to correspond and interact perfectly. Then he talked about how his mom was more intelligent, and he says that they balanced each other. Their match was like all matches, had been monitored by the committee of elders for 3 years, before they could apply for children. So we know love and romance is not important. It's not like now where, you know, I think they're kind of cute, or I like them. You want to go out on a date, we're going to hang out, see where this leads, get married, and then start your family. You had to apply for a spouse. You had no real say-so in who you were put with. So it was like, yes, and here is your spouse. Here's her folder, or here's his folder. Get to know each other in that manner, and then you will move in together. Now, they have to live together successfully 3 years before they can even begin the application process for a child. So that is how we know that love and romance is not important. And that goes back to that page 61 and 62. So make sure that your answer had evidence that came from those areas. Okay, that's vital. You want to make sure that you're pulling the right evidence. Now, let's talk about our test. For today's test, you will read where I stopped at the top of 67, and you will read to the end of the chapter, or the end of page 71, end of chapter. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing. So you're going to be stopping at the end of the chapter, so it would actually be 73 and not 71. I think that that's the best place for us to stop. Now, keep in mind, you are not allowed to use your notebook during the test. I'm not there saying, put your notebook away. It's a total honor system. So you have to think about, what is your honor worth? And you know, if you use your notebook, you're cheating. And are you okay with that? Only you can answer that at this point. You have to decide what your own personal moral compass is. And that's all I can say about that. You're on your own with this, guys. So read the questions carefully. Think about what your end in mind is about drawing conclusions. And it's going to be all right. All right, you've got till midnight tomorrow to get them submitted. Have a great weekend, guys, and spring break.